Welcome back to the Imaginary Gallery. It's TJ here. Today's topic is actually a continuation of another video I did recently about the narcissist has no boundaries, which has now had the title changed to the narcissist respects no boundaries, because that video kind of talked about it from the viewpoint of how the narcissist or other cluster bead monster comes into your life and does not show respect for your boundaries. Well, there's something else involved here that hopefully will help you if you've dealt with such a creature and you are in your mind's full of confusion, because that's common, and they know it. Of course, they know it, but they'll never let you know they wanted that. That's just the way it, the way it works. But we're looking at it from a different angle. The same thing, boundaries. It's just now we're looking at the perpetrator. We're looking at the narcopath or narcissist or whoever you want to call him or her. And what I've got today is two examples to illustrate this. One is real and one is fake. I created it, but I'm sure it exists anyway. It probably does. But here we go. The narcissist does not have regular boundaries. Picture it as this creature that does anything, steals things, may kill people, and that's dramatic, but may not think there's anything wrong with wronging other people to get what they want. That's the way they live their life. That's what they've done for all their life. So when you meet this person and they've assessed you, what they do is they go into character to try to be as close to you as possible as far as your viewpoints and your value systems and your opinions and beliefs. They will mimic these so you think you're dealing with someone who is just like you, which in turn allows you to like open up more and say, really, you feel that way too? Oh, and you tell more, and then they're taking all this in their head, in their little brain, in their little file. It's being all stored, whether it's to hurt you or to help you. It could be either. But let's jump into the stories first to see where this is going. So the real story is, there's this guy. He's dating another guy, and they work together. Well, there's a girl that works with him, and she's got a boyfriend. And she tends to go after the more feminine type guys. Like when I'd go out with them all and see her with him, I'd always say, like, that guy's gay. Who is that? That's her boyfriend. Well, she dates men who are effeminate. She dates men who, if you saw them in a queer bar, it wouldn't look out of place. But it just seemed to be like the trend for her. She liked those kinds of guys. So she would have the next one she'd be out with. And evidently, the two men that worked together, that were a couple, went to a convention at a hotel with the girl and her effeminate boyfriend. So all four of them went to this thing. It was some kind of showcase or some kind of convention related to their business. Well, they drank liquor, they viewed the various speeches, they went to the different places, that the different booths to get information and so on, and watched the movies and whatever they did. Well, one of the guys noticed the girlfriend's effeminate boyfriend, and so he like went over to him and was like talking to him and saying, hey, come over here, let's do this, and was basically pulling him away from the others. And eventually the others noticed that neither one of them were around anymore. So they were like calling on the phone, like, where are you? But no answer. Plus they were trapped because they all had a big hotel room, and the guy that was dating the other one that's there wondering what's going on, he had the key to the room. So they were like saying, okay, after a few hours, they're like, okay, we're done here now. Where are you? We want to go back to our room. And he was nowhere to be found. Well, they decided, well, why don't we walk up towards the room? And they did, and they found a maid. And they said, maid, that's our room. We're locked out. Could you let us in? Well, the maid said, sure. And she slid her little card in, and guess what happened? The door opened, and there was the boyfriend's boyfriend and the girlfriend's boyfriend in the bed, nude! Nude! Playing around and acting shocked. That's example one. Example two would be, there is a lady in a church, and she is looking kind of sad. She's not smiling. She's not indicating she's like in a good place at the moment. And the male comes in and sees her, and he says, "Oh, what's wrong?" And he comforts her. Well, it turns out he's a narcopath, whatever you want to call him, and he knows that she is a recent widow, and her husband was like really rich. So he knows all this, but he's, of course, they pretend not to know. And he is pursuing her and tells her it's going to be okay, and she says, "Oh, I don't want to even talk to men. All they do is want me for my money," and that's exactly what he is, too. But these people are skilled thespians, so he'll be like, "Oh, that's such a shame. You know what, I've got enough money for myself. I'm not interested in money, but I really like this about you or that," and they give some kind of flattery, which is supposed to make her lower her guard, which they're very good at. So he dates her, he starts seeing her, and she acts a little scared, and he assures her he doesn't care about her money. And turns out that this guy is basically a thief, a murderer, a criminal, a violent person, all these things, but he sees the woman as a project, a target, because he's getting supply from her, and she need not know what he really is. Well, what ends up happening is she like lets him in her house more and more and more, and they spend more time together, and eventually the police arrest him. And keep in mind, this whole time he's picked up on the fact that she's very devout, she's very religious, and he has mirrored that back to her like, "Oh yes, I believe the same way. I would never kill, I would never lie, I would never cheat or steal." And she would test this by, when they're watching TV, there'd be some murder on the news, and he'd be like, "Oh, that's so horrible." And she would be like, "Oh yeah, he agrees with me, I agree." Well, then when she sees him taken away to jail, she's like wondering what's going on. So she may go to the jailhouse or jail cell or wherever, or call them. It's like, why was he taken away? And they'll say, "Oh, for armed robbery and for assault." And she is like, her mind is twisting at this point, because that does not make sense with the man she knew, because he'd never, I mean, with her conversations about the television news, he thinks those things are terrible. So her mind is like, you know what, this has got to be a mistake. So that's the first step. She doesn't want to believe that she was dating a murderer and a violent person. So she'll eventually talk to him and actually find out he did, in fact, do something bad, or two things that were bad. But again, he's got a spell on her. He's got all these experiences with the love bombing he's created, so he will be like, "Oh, they misunderstood it. Really, it was this way, but they're saying it's that way." Or, "Well, I did steal that, and I did beat him up, but it was only because I wanted to protect our future," or something that is totally off the wall and retarded. But again, if you're her and you've been with him all this time, you don't want to believe that you've hooked up with a monster. So you may try to convince yourself of the stories, but I'm here to tell you they're not real. If they don't make sense, they are not real. Because many of us get fooled. We don't necessarily believe it, but we have enough time invested that we stick around, and then of course it just gets worse and worse. But anyway, both of these stories, they were slightly differently styled, but both of them indicate how when you are targeted by the narcissist, they become what they think you want them to be. So, like the Christian guy, "Oh yes, I believe all those teachings. I would never lie, cheat, steal, or kill." But then you find out she found out he did. Well, that should like throw the lid off of it all, because it's like, you might be thinking, you're a fraud. Clearly, a devout Christian would not kill and attack somebody for any reason, but they'll try to convince her otherwise. And it's like, "Oh, you're not being fair to me. Oh." See the I Am the Narcopath series. It shows you exactly how they act, which I dress up as one and actually talk to you as if I'm talking to you from their viewpoint. But anyway, and the first one, we're talking about boundaries here. Well, the boundary with the first guy is he's working with his good friend, and she's got her boyfriend there. He's got his there, and yet he's chasing after her boyfriend with his boyfriend there, which is totally disregarding all boundaries, which basically shows that these people want what they want and will do whatever it takes to get it and step on or step over whoever they need to. And for you afterward left in confusion thinking, but he's a Christian, how could he murder? You've been brainwashed. You've been scammed, basically. So, and you want to believe that scam because you had so many good times during that scam. You don't want to believe none of it was real, but time to wake up because it actually wasn't real. And they know this, and that's why they do it. So that's why they tell us, don't feel sad about it. You've basically been targeted by a very skilled con artist who's been doing it for years, knows how to tell when you're suspicious, and knows how to turn it right back around and make it so it's not such a big deal and that you're imagining things. So it's not your fault you dealt with somebody who's an expert manipulator, and even when you picked up on it, you were still told, oh, you got that off, you're off on that. Well, but that's the deal with these people, is they don't have regular boundaries, but they'll pretend to share yours. Then when you find out they did something that does not fit with any boundary or any viewpoint of yours, you're like wondering what happened, and of course they'll give you the nonsense excuses, and eventually it's over. Of course, it's always over. It's like a repeating story for these people, just a different set of characters, same type of story, just a little bit different. But the one thing that's interesting too is once you've gone through all these stages and the person's totally out of your life and gone, I've seen it before, which is very haunting and disgusting. You go out somewhere in public at random and you see the person there, and you see this person with another person, and your mind just tells you, oh, that's the new target. And it's strange because you might watch them and you'll notice different body language, different expressions, different behavior, different clothes, different hairstyle, different anything. And you look at them and think, that doesn't even look like somebody I know, and realize they also change their appearance. When they go from target to target, they may be a slick, clean-cut surfer boy, this for you, and then become a long-haired, bearded hippie for that one, based on what he or she thinks will be the best method to use. Because each person they find is like a brand new blank slate canvas that knows nothing about them, so they can reinvent themselves like Madonna however they want to appear.